What if the salvation of an entire civilization hinged not on the might of armies or the cunning of kings, but on the quiet, insistent brilliance of a scholar steeped in wisdom the world had long dismissed as irrelevant? In the annals of Valerius, such a tale is etched. A narrative that defies conventional heroism and illuminates the profound power of intellect in the face of insurmountable odds. This is the story of Ilara, a man whose hands bore the stains of ink and parchment more often than the calluses of labor, yet whose visions single-handedly averted a catastrophe that threatened to extinguish a kingdom. The realm of Valerius, once a beacon of prosperity and cultural advancement, had fallen into a precipitous decline. For generations, its rulers, blinded by short-sighted ambition and a myopic focus on immediate gains, had systematically dismantled the very foundations of its historical strength. Fertile lands, once meticulously managed through complex hydrological systems, lay parched and barren, victims of neglected canals and deforested watersheds. The intricate network of trade routes, the arteries of Valerian commerce, had atrophied, choked by bureaucratic inefficiency and rampant banditry. Its once famed academies, bastions of innovation and intellectual pursuit, had devolved into echo chambers of outdated dogma, their libraries gathering dust, their scholars content to regurgitate tired maxims rather than forge new understanding. A profound cultural amnesia had settled over the kingdom, slowly eroding its identity and its capacity for resilience. The specter of famine loomed large, a skeletal hand grasping at the population, while economic collapse had plunged countless families into destitution, fueling widespread unrest and igniting sporadic, yet increasingly violent, rebellions across the provinces. The capital, once a vibrant hub of activity, now felt like a city holding its breath, anticipating the inevitable collapse. The air was thick with despair, a tangible weight pressing down on every soul. It was into this milieu of encroaching darkness that Ilara emerged, not from the gilded halls of nobility or the privileged cloisters of established academia, but from the humble, sun-drenched village of Oakhaven, nestled deep within the forgotten agricultural heartlands. His origins were as unpretentious as the worn leather bindings of his favorite books. Born to a family of impoverished scribes, whose lineage traced back to ancient keepers of village records, Ilara's childhood was not marked by opulence, but by the quiet diligence of lamplit study. He learned to read and write before he could properly tie his sandals, his small fingers tracing the faded characters on brittle scrolls inherited from generations past. While other children chased after elusive wild hares or practiced rudimentary farming, Ilara found his solace and his purpose amongst the brittle pages of forgotten texts. He was a solitary child, often perceived as peculiar by his peers, who understood neither his insatiable hunger for knowledge nor his quiet intensity. His parents, though simple folk, recognized the extraordinary spark in their son and, through immense sacrifice, ensured he had access to what few tattered parchments and scrolls their dwindling village library possessed. This early immersion in neglected histories, forgotten treatises on agronomy, and obscure philosophical texts on governance ignited within him a profound reverence for the wisdom of antiquity, a wisdom that, he intuitively understood, held answers to the very problems plaguing his contemporary world, even if his world refused to acknowledge it. His intellectual pursuits were therefore not those dictated by the fashionable academic trends of the capital, but rather a self-directed, almost archaeological excavation of lost knowledge. He delved into ancient texts on environmental management, meticulously studying the sophisticated irrigation systems of the pre-Valerian era, the principles of sustainable forestry that once prevented widespread erosion, and the intricate crop rotation techniques that had ensured bountiful harvests for centuries. He pored over forgotten economic models, examining the structures of communal granaries, the ethical banking practices, and the fair trade agreements that had underpinned Valerius's golden age. Philosophical treatises on civic responsibility, public health, and participatory governance, all gathering dust in the deep recesses of obscure monastic libraries, became his daily bread. Why was this wisdom forgotten? Ilara concluded it was a confluence of factors: the slow erosion of oral traditions, the deliberate suppression of certain texts by less enlightened regimes, the seductive allure of rapid, unsustainable growth, and perhaps most critically, a pervasive cultural arrogance that equated anything old with obsolete. His methodology was rigorous. He cross-referenced fragmented texts, compared historical accounts with fading geographical markers, and even undertook arduous journeys to remote ruins, mapping out the remnants of ancient aqueducts and terraced fields with his own hands. He wasn't merely collecting facts. He was piecing together a grand, interconnected tapestry of knowledge, convinced that within its forgotten patterns lay the blueprints for regeneration. The kingdom's dire challenges, as Ilara observed them firsthand during his solitary travels, were not abstract political machinations, but tangible, heart-wrenching realities. The Great Plains of Valerius, once lauded as the breadbasket of the realm, were now scarred by deep fissures, the soil having turned to dust under years of relentless sun and mismanagement. Crop blights, once rare, became annual scourges, decimating what little the land managed to yield. Water scarcity was not merely a seasonal inconvenience, but a perpetual crisis, leading to bitter conflicts between villages over dwindling river access. The economic collapse was equally pervasive. The Valerian dinar had plummeted in value, trade caravans were routinely plundered by desperate brigands, and the once thriving artisan guilds had withered, unable to find markets for their wares. Social unrest simmered beneath the surface, occasionally boiling over into open rebellion. Bands of dispossessed farmers and unemployed laborers roamed the countryside, their hunger a potent weapon, their despair a fertile ground for radical ideas. Compounding these internal woes was the growing boldness of neighboring kingdoms, sensing Valerius's weakness and probing its borders with increasing aggression. The kingdom was not just failing, it was actively disintegrating, both from within and without, a colossal vessel slowly sinking into the mire. It was this profound state of desperation that, ironically, created the unlikely circumstances for Ilara's pivotal role. The Royal Council, a body usually mired in bureaucratic inertia and internecine squabbles, had exhausted every conventional solution. Royal decrees had failed, military campaigns against internal rebellions had faltered, and even desperate pleas for foreign aid had been met with cynical indifference. In a moment of sheer, unadulterated desperation, a junior aide, who had once heard whispers of an eccentric scholar in Oakhaven meticulously charting ancient watercourses, suggested that the council consult this madman. The suggestion was met with derision, but with no other options, a reluctant summons was issued. Ilara, a man who had never sought recognition or political power, arrived at the opulent royal palace in his simple, dust-stained robes, a stark contrast to the finery of the court. His presence initially elicited skepticism, even outright contempt from the jaded courtiers and weary ministers. What could this reclusive bookworm possibly offer that their esteemed strategists and venerable economists could not? Yet, when confronted with the unfiltered severity of the kingdom's plight, Ilara did not offer grand pronouncements or empty promises. Instead, with a quiet authority born of deep conviction, he presented meticulous analyses, cross-referenced historical data, and detailed proposals rooted in the very wisdom they had discarded. His voice, though soft, carried the weight of forgotten centuries, and his arguments, supported by tangible evidence from his years of research, slowly began to chip away at the court's ingrained cynicism. His application of forgotten wisdom was both revolutionary and profoundly practical. To combat the pervasive famine, Ilara reintroduced ancient, drought-resistant crop varieties that had been cultivated for millennia but abandoned for higher-yielding, though less resilient, modern strains. He oversaw the meticulous restoration of the intricate hydrological network, utilizing detailed maps and engineering principles he had gleaned from pre-Valerian texts. This involved not merely clearing choked canals, but constructing new diversion weirs and underground cisterns designed to capture seasonal floodwaters and distribute them efficiently during dry spells. He established a system of communal granaries and strategic food reserves, modeled on historical precedents that prioritized collective resilience over individual profit, ensuring that no village would be entirely without sustenance during lean years. For the economic collapse, he proposed the re-establishment of the Guilds of True Measure, an ancient system of ethical trade and regulated commerce that ensured fair pricing and product quality, thereby restoring trust in Valerian goods both domestically and abroad. He advocated for the revival of long-dormant trade routes, not through military conquest, but through diplomatic engagement and the establishment of secure way stations, backed by a unique system of mutual protection pacts inspired by old border treaties. He introduced a new monetary policy, drawing lessons from past periods of stability, linking the currency to a diverse basket of commodities rather than singular precious metals, thereby stabilizing its value and curbing inflation. The initial results were gradual but undeniably profound. The first harvest under Ilara's guidance, though not miraculous, was significantly better than previous years, offering the first glimmer of hope in a generation. The restored waterways began to green the parched earth, and the sound of flowing water returned to once dry riverbeds. As food security slowly returned, so too did a measure of social stability. The most desperate rebellions began to subside as people saw tangible evidence of their leaders working for their welfare. The revival of trade, though cautious at first, infused new life into the desolate markets, and the Valerian dinar, bolstered by the new economic policies, began a slow but steady recovery. Ilara's solutions were not quick fixes, but rather systemic overhauls, meticulously designed to address the root causes of Valerius's decline rather than just its symptoms. His interventions were not about power or glory, but about the quiet, unwavering commitment to restoring balance and fostering long-term resilience. The kingdom, once teetering on the brink, began a steady, arduous ascent from the abyss. The forgotten wisdom once dismissed as relics of a bygone era had proven to be the very bedrock upon which Valerius's future would be built, securing its existence not through the transient might of arms, but through the enduring strength of ancient, rediscovered truths.